My name is Rex Turner. I'm the installation manager here at WinChoice. I have been here just almost, I want to say 14 months. And honestly, when I got here a little over a year ago, it was a lot like coming home. Every time I turn the corner, I run into somebody that's been my friend for a decade or longer, and it's hard to really articulate what that means to me. The main reason that I'm here today is I wanted to tell you about my dad, who is also named Rex Turner. And having his name means a lot to me because he set the bar pretty high. I was a senior in college at the University of Tennessee, but I got introduced to cocaine, and I remember it vividly. And over the course of the next 9 to 10 years, I lost everything. But far worse is that I managed to hurt a lot of people over and over and over again. I was in East Nashville, which was probably a literal den of thieves at the time, and this was 26 years ago. And I made a conscious decision that I couldn't live like that anymore. I was in a body shop that was owned by a drug dealer, but I was sitting in there, and I had become everything I said I would never be. I had become a liar, I had become a thief, and eventually I became a prisoner, went to jail several times. And through the course of all that, my dad never gave up on me. When I was in that body shop in East Nashville, and I had like this moment of clarity, and I saw without any kind of filter who I had become. And I thought about my mom crying herself to sleep every night. And I thought about my dad who had done everything he could sacrificially to give me every advantage. And then I had just failed in life. And I just couldn't do that anymore. And I had this thought in my mind that if I took my own life, that it would hurt my parents tremendously, and it would hurt the people that love me, but it would be this bright moment of pain. And that was preferable to dragging out this prolonged misery. And the shame was just on me so greatly. Because my parents didn't raise me like that. So I knew that the drug dealer that owned the place had a 9mm pistol in the drawer of this desk in another room. And I had this thought in my mind, and I was gonna go get that pistol, and I just didn't want to live anymore. And I got up and I walked off, and I left the drugs sitting on the desk, and all the people that were in that bay turned around and looked at me because you just didn't walk off and leave that stuff. And I left. And I go down the hallway, and it was a long, dark hallway with a door that went to the outside, but halfway through was the door to the office where the gun was. The second that my hand touched the doorknob, the door to the outside opens up, and I look up, and my dad is standing there, in a suit and tie on. And I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Son, let me help you." He said, "I was at a Rotary Club meeting, and this man gave this talk about this program, and it was called Teen Challenge. And he said, God spoke to my heart and told me this is what he was going to use to save your life, and that I needed to come find you." And I screamed at him to leave and to go away and to write me off, that I wasn't worth his time, I wasn't worth his effort, that I wasn't worth his love, that something was wrong with me that I could not change. And he just wouldn't leave. He just kept sitting there with his hand out, and he said, "Son, let me help you." And I gave in, and I went with him, and it changed my life. One of the occurrences, again, God's in the miracle working business, right? And what pains me, but it's just the truth, is you can't sometimes see his plan when you're in it. You have to look at it in the rear view. So I get, my dad at this time was living by himself. My mom has Alzheimer's dementia, and she was in a nursing home. And I get a call from my dad, and he hangs up as soon as we start talking. I call him back. He gets on the phone, and he is not right. Matter of fact, my first thought, his age and everything, and all the stress with everything with my mom is that he was having a stroke, slurred words, not making any sense, and then he hung up on me again. And so I instantly drove over to his house and started beating on the doors and the windows, and he was yelling to me, and I would say, unlock the doors. The key that I have to his house was back at my house, and which was, on the other side of town. And I couldn't decide, what do I do? He didn't sound right. I think he's having a stroke. I can't get in. He keeps telling me, he's like, I was like, unlock the door. And he was like, okay. And then nothing would happen. And my anxiety is through the roof. My stress is through the roof. I mean, outside of my children, there's no one more important to me on the planet. And he's my hero. And I was scared to death that I was losing him in that moment. Call the police, and they can't do anything because they can't see anybody in distress. And so I'm like, I guess I need to run home and get the keys, which would have taken, 30 or 40 minutes or whatever. And I called Trey Dobbs, easily my best friend. I called him and I was like, hey, I told him what was going on with my dad. And I said, I guess I'm going to jet. The police are here. I'm going to leave them here. I'm going to jet back home and I'm going to get the keys. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I got to get the keys. He was like, break the window out. And I was like, I can't. He was like, we work for a window company. And I was like, that is right. I got a stone and I had to break his window out. And I got in there, and by the grace of God, he wasn't having a stroke. His blood sugar was in the 20s. My dad is a diabetic and apparently had accidentally overdosed himself on long-acting insulin. They gave him the sugar to raise his blood, and it wouldn't come up. It went from like 28 to 30. So they ended up having to load him up on a stretcher and take him in an ambulance. So I, of course, followed the ambulance to the hospital. We're in there. They do all this stuff, and he had some other issues as well. And so we broke out one of the side panels of his beside his sliding patio door, pretty big piece of glass. And so he is paranoid. My dad was a banker for 40 years. He's seen all kinds of fraud and all kinds of theft, and it's never far from his mind. And he was worried to death about his checkbooks, which, I mean, who even has checkbooks now? But he was worried to death. He was like, he kept saying, you got to go get my checkbooks. You got to go get my briefcase. You got to go get this. And I just wanted to do anything that he wanted me to do that would give him any measure of peace. And so I was like, okay, Dad. I was like, I'll leave right now. I'll go over there. Where are they? He tells me where they are. Trey had gone out to my dad's house, had measured the glass, had gotten our factory to stop what they were doing, cut the glass, loaded it into one of our Sprinter vans. And he calls me right as I'm pulling into the driveway. And he said, where are you? He said, I have the glass to put in your dad's door, and probably need your help to carry it. And I was like, I just pulled into his driveway. I was like, I'm sitting here waiting on you. And it wasn't 10 minutes, and he's pulling in, and 15, 20 minutes after that, the glass was in, the home was secured, the alarm was set. I was able to go back and say, hey, your alarm's set. You don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to have any fear. Everything is safe and secure. And I could see it just wash over him that he had one less thing to worry about. And, it's easy to be the right kind of company when everything goes exactly the way it should be. But I was desperate and I had a need, and they answered the call in a way that it didn't even dawn on me to ask for it in the blink of an eye. And I already knew it, but it was just validation that God had ordered my steps here for such a time as this. And I'll be eternally grateful for that, and I won't ever forget it. And my dad has brought it up to me at least 20 times about how grateful he is. And my dad is in the business of sacrificing himself for those that he cares about. And the shoe was on the other foot this time because someone else got to sacrifice to take care of him. With my dad, I open my mouth and I hear his words come out all the time, and even things I didn't even realize that I was learning from him, that he just instilled into me. And I guess the one thing I take away from my kids, obviously I'm a single dad. I have 2 girls and a boy. And the one thing I would tell you that I learned unequivocally from my dad and that I would communicate to anyone else is that love is sacrificial. If it doesn't cost you anything, then it's kind of an easy come, easy go. My dad would continuously put himself last to make sure that my mom and myself were first. And one thing my dad taught me, probably the number one thing, is, and I make a lot of mistakes raising my kids. They would be the first to tell you. Trust me, my daughter's 18 and my middle daughter is 16, and they would be happy to tell you about all the mistakes I make. But they would also tell you that dad shows up every day in and day out. They can count on me. And that was my dad. He was my rock. He was my security. I never worried about anything because he just took care of everything. And I had a childhood that was idyllic, like a fairy tale, because I could just be a kid and never have to worry about anything at all. So much of it, I guess, is just being present in the moment. I've driven a lot of miles to a lot of girls' basketball games and softball games and soccer and this and that, and I do it gladly. And a lot of times my dad was right there beside me when we were going to see the games. He's not that mobile anymore, but he showed up day in and day out. I guess a lot of life is with your children is you leave a legacy, right? And you want their lives to be better than yours. And my dad's legacy will always be sacrificial love. I love you enough to sacrifice my happiness so that you can have. And we call him Poppy. We got him a shirt that says the world's greatest Poppy. And he wears it all the time. But the legacy that I want my kids to carry from my dad is that you love and you do it with actions. I used to tell my daughters, because I wanted them to be self-sufficient, I wanted them to be independent, I didn't want to have to worry about them. And I would say, nobody's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. But that's not true, because my dad always came to save me. He always did, no matter what, and I'll always be there. If there's breath in my body, I will be there to save my kids. And I guess that's probably the best legacy my dad could have given me, is that I'll be there for you no matter what. If there is a breath in my body and I am capable of doing it, I promise you I will be there. I moved to Hot Springs, Arkansas because I had become a single dad and I needed his help again. I needed my mom and my dad to help me raise my kids. And now I've been here now for about 13 years, and now I get to take care of my dad. He actually just moved in with me, lost my mom about a month ago, and my best friend is in the lazy boy of my house every single day. And it makes me as happy as I've ever been in my life. So every time Father's Day rolls around, I can't help but think about my dad and him saving my life. And then it's magnified right now because every day I get to come to work and I'm surrounded by family. And, as someone who prides himself on, being articulate and being able to express your thoughts in words, I just don't have the words. One thing I do know is that I am as grateful as I have ever been for anything, is to be here and have the people in my life that I have. So my dad, and his name is Rex Milton Turner. I just want to tell you, Dad, happy Father's Day, and I love you.